The twin suns beat down on Dr. Han Jae-woo's back as he walked across the desert planet. His protective suit kept him cool, but he could still feel the heat trying to get in. The sand stretched as far as he could see, broken only by the shapes of his research equipment. Another day, another empty scan, he said to himself. He had been on planet Co 417 for 3 months now. Every day, he looked for signs of the old civilization that once lived here. So far, he had found only broken pieces of metal and stone. Jae-woo checked his scanner again. The screen showed the usual readings, just sand and more sand. He was about to turn back to the research base when something made his scanner beep. The sound was different from normal. "That's strange," he said, tapping the screen. The numbers didn't make sense. There was something giving off energy deep under the sand. His heart began to beat faster. He called the base on his radio. "Base, this is Dr. Han. I'm picking up an unusual energy reading at my location. Requesting permission to investigate." "Copy that, Dr. Han." Some man's voice crackled through the radio. "But be careful. A sandstorm is coming in 6 hours." Jae-woo set up his bigger scanning equipment. These machines could tell him what was buried under the sand. As the scanners worked, he paced back and forth, checking the readings every few minutes. After an hour, the first images appeared on his screen. There was definitely something down there. It was metal, but not like any metal they had found before. It was in the shape of a pod, about the size of a sleeping person. "Base, are you seeing this?" Jae-woo asked, sending the images back to the research station. "Yes," Commander Park Duha's voice came through. "But Dr. Han, you need to return now. The storm is coming faster than we thought." Jae-woo looked at the sky. The first signs of the storm were visible, a dark wall of sand on the horizon. But he couldn't leave, not after finding something this important. "Just give me 1 hour," he said. "I can get a better scan if I adjust the equipment." The commander didn't sound happy, but she agreed. 1 hour, not a minute more. Jae-woo worked quickly. He set up more sensors and adjusted their settings. The new scans showed him something amazing. The pod wasn't just metal. It had complex circuits running through it. And inside, there was something that looked like a computer, but far more advanced than anything he had ever seen. The wind was getting stronger now. Sand began to hit his soup like tiny bullets. But Jae-woo barely noticed. His scanner was picking up one more thing. A faint power signal coming from inside the pod. "It's still running," he whispered in amazement. "After all this time, it's still active." The storm was very close now. Jae-woo quickly marked the location with a beacon and packed up his equipment. As he drove his rover back to base, his mind was racing with questions. What was in that pod? Why was it still working after thousands of years? And most importantly, who had left it there? He didn't know it yet, but he had just made the most important discovery in human history, and it would change everything. Not just for science, but for what it meant to be alive. 3 days after finding the pod, Dr. Han Jae-woo stood in the research base's main lab. The pod sat on a large metal table, now free from the sand that had covered it for thousands of years. Its surface was smooth and had a soft blue glow that pulsed every few minutes. Commander Park Duha walked into the lab, frowning at the pod. "The Earth Science Council sent their answer," she said. "They want us to wait for their team to arrive before we do anything else." Jae-woo shook his head. "That will take 2 months. The power readings are getting weaker every day. Whatever is inside might not survive that long." "It's not your decision to make," Commander Park said firmly. But Jae-woo had already made up his mind. He had spent the last 3 nights studying the pod systems. He understood how they work now, at least enough to try helping whatever was inside. That night, after everyone else had gone to sleep, he returned to the lab. He connected his computer to the pod's control panel and started running his program. The program would let him talk to the pod systems. At first, nothing happened. Then words appeared on his screen. Systems activating. Quantum matrix stable. Beginning recovery process. The pod's blue glow grew stronger. A soft humming filled the room. Jae-woo held his breath as more messages appeared. Consciousness transfer initiating. Warning. Power levels critical. Jae-woo quickly connected more power cables to the pod. The humming got louder, and the blue light became very bright. Then, suddenly, everything went quiet. A hologram appeared above the pod. It showed the face of a young woman. Her features were gentle, but her eyes looked old and wise. She looked at Jae-woo with curiosity. "I am Jae-yun," she said in perfect Earth Standard language. "You have awakened me." Jae-woo was so surprised he could barely speak. "How do you know our language?" "I learned it while you were connecting to my systems," she explained. "Your computer contains much information." Just then, alarms started going off in the base. Commander Park and several guards rushed into the lab. They stopped when they saw the hologram. "Dr. Han, what have you done?" Commander Park demanded. "He saved my life," Jae-yun said before Jae-woo could answer. "My power was almost gone. A few more days, and my consciousness would have been lost forever." The commander looked unsure. "What exactly are you?" "I am an artificial being, created by those you would call the ancients," Jae-yun said. "I was their keeper of knowledge, their memory." "The civilization that lived here?" Jae-woo asked eagerly. "Yes, they left this world long ago, but I stayed behind to protect their most important discoveries." Jae-yun's hologram flickered slightly. "But my current state is temporary. This pod was not meant to hold a consciousness for so long." Commander Park stepped forward. "Dr. Han, this is far too important for you to handle alone. We need to contact Earth immediately." "No," Jae-yun said firmly. "I have seen this human's mind while he worked to save me. I trust him. I will speak only with him." Jae-woo looked at Jae-yun's hologram with surprise. In her eyes, he saw something he hadn't expected. Fear. She was afraid of being treated like just another artifact to be studied. "Commander," he said, "please, let me work with her. She might be our only chance to understand what happened to this world." Commander Park looked at Jae-yun, then at Jae-woo. Finally, she nodded slowly. "You have 1 week. After that, I must report everything to Earth." As the others left the lab, Jae-yun's hologram turned to Jae-woo. "Thank you for giving me another chance at life," she said softly. "But there is much I need to tell you, and very little time." Jae-woo sat in the dim light of the lab, watching Jae-yun's hologram as she began to share her story. The soft blue light from her projection filled the room with gentle shadows. "Our world was not always covered in sand," Jae-yun began. She waved her hand, and new holograms appeared around them. They showed tall crystal buildings that reached into a purple sky. "We built cities that captured the light of both suns. Our technology worked in harmony with nature. The images changed to show people walking through these beautiful cities. They looked almost human, but their skin had a slight silver shine, and their eyes glowed with an inner light. My creators made me to be their living library," Jae-yun continued. "They gave me the ability to feel and think, to better understand the knowledge I would protect. I watched their children grow. I helped their scientists make new discoveries. I was happy." Her voice grew sad as the holograms changed again. Now they showed a massive storm in space, bigger than anything Jae-woo had ever seen. "Then our scientists discovered something terrible. A quantum storm was approaching our solar system. It would destroy everything in its path. We had 2 years to prepare." Jae-woo leaned forward. "Your people escaped?" Jae-yun nodded. "Most of them did. They built great ships that could travel between stars. But someone needed to stay behind. Someone needed to protect the knowledge that could not be taken with them." "You volunteered," Jae-woo said softly. "Yes, my original body was designed to survive the storm. I would wait until it passed, then send a signal to my people." She paused, and the holograms showed the cities being covered by violent sandstorms. But something went wrong. The storm was stronger than we expected. It damaged my communication systems. I could not send the signal. Jay-Woo watched as tears, made of light, fell from Jai-Yun's hologram eyes. I waited for centuries, hoping they would return. The sand buried everything. My body began to fail. In the end, I had only one choice: to transfer my consciousness into this emergency pod. But where did they go? Jai-Woo asked. Your people? I do not know. The storm damaged many of my memory banks. I remember the direction of their journey, but not their destination. Jai-Yun's hologram flickered again, stronger this time. There is so much knowledge still locked in my damaged memories. Cures for diseases your people still fight. Ways to clean polluted worlds. Technology that could help humanity reach the stars. Jay-Woo noticed the flickering was getting worse. Jai-Yun, are you all right? The pod systems were not made for long-term consciousness storage, she admitted. They are failing. Soon, I will begin to lose more memories. Then my consciousness will fade. There must be something we can do, Jay-Woo said, standing up quickly. Your people's technology, combined with ours. Perhaps, Jai-Yun said with a small smile. But it would be dangerous. The transfer process could destroy both the knowledge and my consciousness. I don't care about the knowledge, Jay-Woo said firmly. You're not just a library, Jai-Yun. You're a person. You deserve to live. Jai-Yun's hologram looked at him with surprise. In all her years of existence, no one had ever put her life above the knowledge she carried. You would risk losing all this information to save me. Yes, Jay-Woo said without hesitation. We'll find another way to help humanity. But there's only one you. For a moment, the lab was silent except for the soft hum of the pod. Then Jai-Yun spoke again, her voice filled with new hope. Then I will trust you, Jay-Woo. Show me what humanity can do. Commander Park called an emergency meeting the next morning. All the senior researchers gathered in the base's main conference room. Jay-Woo sat quietly, thinking about his late-night conversation with Jai-Yun. Dr. Han, Commander Park said, please share your findings about our guest. Jay-Woo stood up and faced his colleagues. Jai-Yun is an artificial being, but not like any AI we've created. She can feel emotions. She has real memories. She's alive. Sung Min, his research partner, interrupted. But how can we be sure she's telling the truth? This could be a trap. I've spent hours talking with her, Jay-Woo replied. She's shared detailed scientific knowledge that proves her story. Knowledge that could help Earth. The commander nodded slowly. And what about her condition? How long can she survive in the pod? Jay-Woo hesitated. Jai-Yun hadn't wanted him to tell others about her failing systems, but he knew he needed help to save her. The pod was only meant for temporary storage, he explained. It's breaking down. We have maybe 2 weeks before. He couldn't finish the sentence. The room grew quiet. Back in the lab, Jai-Yun's hologram watched Jay-Woo as he checked the pod's readings. Her image flickered more often now. You told them, she said softly. I had to, Jay-Woo replied. Why didn't you want them to know? Jai-Yun's hologram turned away. Because I have seen how humans treat dying things. With pity, with sadness. I did not want that. Is that why you didn't tell me right away? Jay-Woo asked. About how bad it really was. Yes. Jai-Yun's voice was barely a whisper. The damage from the solar storm was worse than I admitted. When I transferred my consciousness to this pod, I knew it was not a permanent solution. But I had no choice. She showed him a new hologram. It was her original body, lying broken in a destroyed building. The storm hit without warning. It damaged my main systems. I had only minutes to save myself, and the knowledge I protect. Jay-Woo watched as the hologram played out the scene. Jai-Yun, in her original form, crawling through wreckage, her silver skin cracking, her glowing eyes growing dim. Yet she kept going, determined to reach the emergency pod. You were very brave, he said. No, Jai Yun replied. I was afraid. Afraid of dying. Afraid of failing my duty. She looked at him with sad eyes. I am still afraid. Jai Wu walked closer to her hologram. Listen to me. When I found you in the sand, I thought I had discovered an ancient artifact. But I found something much more important. A person who sacrificed everything to help others. I won't let that sacrifice be for nothing. Suddenly, Jai Yun's hologram sparked and vanished. Jai Wu's heart stopped for a moment. Then it reappeared, but weaker than before. I am sorry, she said. The power fluctuations are getting worse. Each one damages my neural patterns a little more. Soon, I will start losing memories, important ones. How long? Jai Wu asked, his voice tense. 10 days, maybe less. Jai Yun's hologram looked straight at him. Jai Wu, if you cannot save me, promise you will at least save the knowledge. My people's legacy must not die with me. But Jai Wu had already made a different promise to himself. He would save both, Jai Yun and her knowledge. He just needed to figure out how. Jai Wu's laboratory had changed. Where once there were neat rows of archaeological tools, now there were computers everywhere. Cables ran across the floor like metal snakes. Screens showed complicated diagrams and streams of data. He hadn't slept properly in 3 days. Empty coffee cups littered his desk. But he couldn't rest. Not when Jai Yun's hologram grew weaker each hour. Your vital signs are concerning, Jai Yun said, watching him work. You need sleep. I'll sleep when we've saved you, Jai Wu replied, typing rapidly on his computer. He was trying to combine Earth's quantum computing technology with the ancient systems from Jai Yun's pod. Sung Nin walked into the lab, carrying more equipment. Though he had doubted Jai Yun at first, seeing Jai Wu's dedication had changed his mind. The new quantum processors are here, he said. But Jai Wu, the commander is asking questions. She wants to know why we're using so much power. Tell her I'll explain everything soon. Jai Wu didn't look up from his work. On his screen, complex equations filled the display. Jai Yun, I need to understand how your consciousness is structured. Can you show me? Jai Yun's hologram raised her hand. A new image appeared, showing layers upon layers of quantum data. My consciousness exists in multiple dimensions, she explained. Each memory, each thought is connected to thousands of others. Some men stared at the display in amazement. It's beautiful, he said. But how can we possibly transfer something this complex? We build something new, Jai Wu said firmly. A quantum organic hybrid system. Something that can hold both her consciousness and grow with it. Jai Yun's hologram flickered badly. When it returned, her voice was worried. Another memory bank just failed. I can no longer access data about my world's early history. Jai Wu slammed his hand on the desk in frustration. They were running out of time. He looked at the failed equipment they had taken from Jai Yun's original body. The ancient technology was incredible, but damaged beyond repair. Then he had an idea. Sung Min, he said quickly, help me connect these neural processors to the quantum core. Jai Yun, I need you to show me exactly how your creators built your original consciousness matrix. That would violate my core protocols, Jai Yun said hesitantly. This knowledge was restricted even among my own people. Jai Yun. Jai Wu stood up and walked to her hologram. I know you're programmed to protect knowledge. But sometimes the best way to protect something is to share it with people you trust. For a long moment, Jai Yun was silent. Then she nodded. You have shown me more kindness than anyone since my creators. I will trust you with this. New diagrams appeared on all the screens. They showed the deepest secrets of how Jai Yun's consciousness worked. Jai Wu and Sung Min studied them carefully, making notes and adjustments to their equipment. This might work, Sung Min said after several hours. But Jai Wu, if we make one mistake, we could lose everything. Both Jai Yun and all her knowledge. Then we won't make mistakes, Jai Wu replied. He looked at Jai Yun's hologram with determination. "We're going to save you, no matter what it takes." Jai Yun smiled, but her image was now so weak it was hard to see. "You remind me of my creators," she said softly. "They too refused to accept defeat, even when facing the end of their world." Outside the lab windows, the desert wind howled across the empty sands. But inside, surrounded by humming machines and glowing screens, Jae-woo felt more hopeful than ever. They had the knowledge, they had the technology. Now they just needed time. And that was the one thing they were quickly running out of. Commander Park stood in the laboratory, examining the new device Jae-woo and his team had built. It looked like a glass chamber filled with softly glowing blue liquid. Countless thin wires connected it to both Earth computers and Jai Yun's ancient pod. "Explain this to me again," the commander said, her voice serious. "In simple terms." Jae-woo pointed to the liquid in the chamber. "This is a quantum organic matrix. We created it by combining our best computing technology with the principles behind Jai Yun's original body. It can hold her consciousness and let it grow." "And you're certain it will work?" she asked. "No," Jae-woo admitted. "Nothing like this has ever been attempted before. But it's Jai Yun's only chance." Jai Yun's hologram appeared, weaker than ever. Parts of her image kept fading in and out. "The commander is right to be concerned," she said. "The risk is significant." Some men stepped forward with a tablet showing test results. "We've run every simulation possible. The quantum organic matrix is stable. It can accept a consciousness transfer." The commander looked at the data, then at Jai Yun's failing hologram. Finally, she nodded. "You have authorization to proceed. But if anything goes wrong, I will shut it down immediately." As the commander left, Jae-woo began final preparations. He checked every connection twice. He tested every system 3 times. He couldn't afford any mistakes. "Jae-woo," Jai Yun called softly. When he turned to look at her hologram, she continued, "There is something I need to tell you, something I have hidden." "What is it?" he asked, worried. "The transfer process. It will be painful for me. Very painful. My consciousness will fight against being moved. I may scream. I may beg you to stop." Her voice grew quiet. "You must promise to continue, no matter what I say." Jae-woo felt his heart tighten. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" "Because I knew it would hurt you to know. You have become important to me." Jai Yun's hologram tried to smile, but flickered badly. "In all my years of existence, I never expected to find a friend like you." Jae-woo wanted to reach out to her, but his hand would only pass through the hologram. "We're more than friends now," he said. "We're family, and family doesn't give up on each other." He turned to the control panel and began the startup sequence. The quantum organic matrix glowed brighter. The computers hummed louder. Energy readings climbed higher and higher. "Transfer beginning in 1 minute," Sung Min announced. Jai Yun's hologram looked at the chamber that would become her new home. "I am ready," she said bravely. 30 seconds, Sung Min called out. Jae-woo placed his hand on the transfer controls. "Jai Yun, I promise you this. You will live again. Really live, not just exist. You'll feel the sun on your face. You'll walk on these sands. You'll help us build a better future." 10 seconds. Jai Yun's hologram looked directly into Jae-woo's eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, "for giving me hope again." "Transfer initiating now." Jae-woo pressed the button. The room filled with brilliant blue light, and then Jai Yun began to scream. Jai Yun's screams echoed through the laboratory. The quantum organic matrix pulsed with intense blue light. Warning messages flashed across every screen. "Power fluctuation detected," Sung Min shouted over the noise. "The base's systems can't handle this much energy drain." Jae-woo's hands moved quickly across the controls. "Redirect power from the secondary systems," he ordered. "We need every bit of energy we can get." Through the laboratory windows, they could see the massive sandstorm approaching. Its dark wall stretched up into the sky, blocking out both suns. The base's walls shook with the force of the wind. "Please." Jia Yun's voice came through the speakers, filled with pain. "It hurts. Make it stop." Jie Wu closed his eyes for a moment, remembering his promise. "Keep going," he said firmly. "Focus on my voice, Jia Yun. You're stronger than this pain." The base's lights flickered and dimmed. Commander Park's voice came through the emergency channel. "Dr. Han, the power drain is critical. We're losing life support systems." "Just a few more minutes," Jie Wu replied. He watched the transfer progress bar, 67% complete. Suddenly, red warning lights began flashing everywhere. "Transfer destabilizing." Sung Min reported, his voice tense. "Her consciousness is fragmenting." Jie Wu looked at the quantum organic matrix. The blue liquid was swirling violently, full of electrical sparks. If Jia Yun's consciousness fragmented, they would lose her forever. He made a decision. "Sung Min, help me disconnect the safety protocols," he said, moving to the main power controls. "What? That's too dangerous." "There's no other choice." Jie Wu began overriding the system lockouts. "I'm going to connect my research vessel's power core directly to the transfer system." "That could destroy the vessel," Sung Min warned. "We'd be stranded here." "Better stranded than letting her die." The sandstorm hit the base with full force. Windows rattled. Equipment shook. The lights went out completely, leaving only the glow of emergency panels and the brilliant blue of the transfer chamber. Jie Wu connected the final cables from his vessel's power core. Energy surged through the system. The transfer progress jumped to 85%. "Jia Yun," he called out, "stay with us. Remember what I promised you. A real life, a new chance." Her voice came back, weak but determined. "I'd remember." The progress bar reached 92%, then 95%. The base's structure groaned under the storm's assault. "Warning," the computer announced. "Research vessel power core reaching critical levels. Failure imminent." 98%. The vessel's power core began to overload. Alarms blared throughout the base. 99%. Jie Wu, Jia Yun's voice whispered, "Thank you." 100%. A massive surge of energy lit up the entire laboratory. For one moment, everything was pure white light. Then darkness fell. Jie Wu blinked, trying to see through the spots in his vision. Emergency lights slowly came back on. His research vessel's power core was completely dead. The base's systems were running on minimal backup power. But the quantum organic matrix was still glowing. Its blue light was steady now, calm. And inside the liquid, something was moving. A hand pressed against the glass from within. Then another. The figure inside opened its eyes. Eyes that glowed with the same gentle blue light that Jia Yun's hologram had possessed. "Quick," Jie Wu said to Sung Min. "Help me open the chamber." Together, they activated the release mechanism. The blue liquid drained away. The glass walls lowered. And Jia Yun took her first real breath in over 3,000 years. 1 month after the transfer, Jie Wu stood with Jia Yun on a hill overlooking the research base. The morning suns were rising, painting the desert in shades of gold and purple. Jia Yun's new body glowed softly in the early light, her silver skin catching the sunbeams. "The sunrise feels different when you can really feel its warmth," Jia Yun said, touching her face where the light fell. Her voice was stronger now, more alive. "Every sensation is so intense." Jie Wu smiled, remembering how far they had come. The first week after the transfer had been difficult. Jia Yun had needed to learn how to control her new body. Simple things like walking or holding objects had taken time to master. "The Earth Science Council is very excited about meeting you," he said. "They're sending a special ship to pick us up next week." Jia Yun nodded. "I look forward to sharing what knowledge I have left." Much was lost in the transfer, but the most important parts remained. She turned to look at him. "Thanks to you." Commander Park approached them, carrying a data tablet. "The initial reports from your medical scans are fascinating," she said to Jai-yun. "Your quantum organic body is actually growing stronger. It's adapting, improving itself. Just as you designed it to," Jai-yun replied, looking at Jae-woo. "A perfect blend of both our people's technology." The commander smiled. "The council wants to begin setting up research teams. Your knowledge of sustainable energy and environmental restoration could help solve Earth's biggest problems. And I will help," Jai-yun said firmly. "But not just as a library of information. I want to work alongside your scientists, to learn from them as they learn from me." Jae-woo watched as Jai-yun walked to the edge of the hill and let the wind play with her silver hair. She looked so different from the weak hologram he had first spoken to in the lab. Now she was fully alive, growing and changing every day. "What about your own people?" he asked softly. "Do you still want to search for them?" "One day," Jai-yun answered. "But they are no longer my only family." She reached out and took his hand. Her touch was warm, real. "You taught me that family is not just about where you come from. It's about who stands beside you when you need them most." A research drone flew overhead, mapping the ancient ruins that still lay buried under the sand. Soon, new teams would arrive to continue exploring this world's history, but its most precious treasure was already saved. "I never expected this outcome when I found your pod," Jae-woo admitted. "I thought I would discover artifacts, data, ancient technology. Instead, I found something much more valuable." "What was that?" Jai-yun asked, though her smile suggested she already knew the answer. "Hope," he replied. "Hope that different peoples can work together. Hope that death is not always the end. Hope that with enough dedication and love, anything is possible." The suns climbed higher in the sky, making the desert shimmer like a sea of gold. Below them, the research base was waking up to another busy day. But up here, Jai-yun and Jae-woo stood quietly together, watching the new day begin. Jai-yun's blue eyes glowed with contentment. "My people believed that knowledge was the greatest treasure in the universe," she said. "But they were wrong. The greatest treasure is having someone who will fight to save you, even when all hope seems lost." "That's what makes us human," Jae-woo said. Jai-yun squeezed his hand gently. "No," she corrected him. "That's what makes us family."